Okay, so this is going to be coding concepts in Unity, and this is for, if you haven't really been doing coding very much, this should give you some idea of some of the basic principles that we use in writing software. And if you're in my class, we've done all of these throughout the semester. This kind of puts it all together in one project. So I'm going to create a new Unity project, 2D, and here we go. And the idea behind this one is we're going to show 5 objects on the screen, and we're going to, as we press the spacebar, we'll show them one at a time. And once we finish all of them, then we'll hide them all, and then keep pressing the spacebar and show them one at a time again. So, and throughout all that, we're going to learn about variables, arrays, functions, and looping. A lot of good stuff there. I'm going to adjust this thing just a little bit so it looks more like yours. Okay, so we're going to start this Unity scene. I am gonna, well, we'll just go to the project. I have a few more little icons or little tabs on my screen than you might have, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. Yours doesn't look exactly like mine. We won't be doing a whole lot of work inside of this thing anyways. First thing I'm going to do is change the color of my main camera background to something decent. And then I'm going to drag in a picture. Any PNG or JPEG is going to work. I'm just bringing in this little vendor guy. Just because, I don't know, it's a glitch asset and it's a good asset to have. And I'm going to make 5 of them. So Command D can duplicate, and I'll drag them out. So hopefully this part of it is familiar to you. If not, there's other tutorials to talk about how we're actually just going to work inside of Unity. But what I really wanted to do is just get the scene with these 5 things in it, because most of what we're going to be doing in this one is coding. So if I hit play, there we are. We have our 5 little guys. And now we're going to write some code to manipulate them. So the things that we want to do are, as soon as the program starts, we want to hide all 5 of these things. And then we want to show them one at a time as we press the spacebar. And once all 5 are visible, we want to hide all of them again and start the process all over. That's what we want to do. So in order to do that, I'm going to create. So I right-click down here, right-click, create, CSharp Script. And this will be, I don't know, hide stuff. Remember, no spaces in the file names. It's important. And I'm going to put the script on my main camera for simplicity's sake. So I just clicked on my main camera, and I'm going to drag the CSharp script down here right over to the bottom here. So now this hide stuff script is associated with our camera. And the reason I did that is because we just want this thing to run as soon as the scene starts. So that's all. All right, I will open this thing up in the editor. Go. Zoom in a little bit. Class hide stuff. Okay, so when we start up, we want to hide all of the images. So how do we do that? We need to know about the images. Then we will go through them one at a time and hide each one. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Remember, 2 slashes are comments, so always talk yourself through it. I think this part eventually will become the hardest part, is what are you trying to do, and the code will just follow your words. So we're just going to start in regular sentences and figure it out. So first part, we need to know about the images. Starting in this class, we have no idea what's going on in our Unity scene, right? There's 5 images in there, but this script doesn't know anything about them. It's all empty. And so what we need to do is put a reference to these images here in our script so that we can manipulate them by showing them and hiding them and things like that. And the way we're going to do that is by making this public game object, square brackets, images. And then I'm going to save it. So what do we do here? Public means that we're going to be able to see these images from stuff that's outside of this class, including inside the Unity GUI, which is what we'll switch to in a second. This is the type. These are all game objects. These little square brackets means there's going to be more than one. And this is the name that we're going to refer to this collection of images throughout our script. So that's how we define it right here. So we're still working on this part of it. We need to know about the images. So this is going to give us a placeholder. Now if I save that and go back to Unity, and I click on my main camera, over here in my hide stuff script, now this little images thing is showing up, and it's got a down arrow. So it's going to say the size is 0. So remember, we made this thing public, which means it's going to show up here. Square brackets mean it's a collection of things, an array, and that's what it's here right here. Right now it's the size of 0. So what I'm going to do is drag each one of these images from my hierarchy over here on the left down into this collection of images here. And what I do is I drag it from the left and I drop it right on the word images over here. So I'm going to grab my first one, drag it on top. Now we have one of them, size 1. Drag the second one, size 2, and all through all of these. Yes, there are ways to drag all of them at once, but for this example, we're doing them one at a time. Okay, so now this images has 5 things in it, and it's each of our images in our scene. Perfect. So now when I go back into our script, this right here is a placeholder for our images. Inside of Unity, we linked them up, so now images refers to those 5 images that we dragged into it inside of Unity. So this part about it is good. We need to know about the images. We just did that part. So we are done with this one. Okay, now, then we will go through them one at a time and hide each one. Okay, so we're going to do that with a for loop. So for loop is for, we're going to say int x equals 0, x less than size. This is going to be red. It's okay. X plus plus. I'm going to explain this here. So for loop, this allows us to count, basically. And we have 5 images. Element 0 is the first one. Element 1 is the second one. So we say int x, which means it's counting numbers. It's going to start at 0, just like this one does, 0. And we're going to increment it. That's what x plus plus means. We're going to increment through these. While our counter, which is x, is less than some size. Basically the count of all of these things. Because we don't have an element 5. So we don't want to do anything over here. We can't do that. We can only look at the ones that we have. So the size, instead of just saying size, because we don't know what size we're talking to, this is going to be images.length. Oops. Images.length. So that way we can count through all of them. And if we dragged in 6 images or 7 images or whatever, this would still work because it's looking at how many things are in here. Okay, so this here, curly braces and all, is this part of that. I'll break this up into 2 tasks. How's that? Gotta celebrate our victories. Done with that. Now we come down to this part, hide each one. So how do we hide these things? How do we refer to each one uniquely? So these things are a list with these square brackets. So if we say images of 0, that's going to refer to element 0 in our list over here. Element 0 in our list happens to be this first guy here. So to hide it, we can say set active false. So that's how we will hide it, by saying set active false. So this line right here is going to set element 0, right, because it says 0, false. Let's just save it and run it and see what happens. First one disappeared. Because that's what our code said to do, hide the first one. But we have this variable x that is counting from 0 to the length of the number of images. So instead of putting 0 in here, if we just put x and save it, it's going to count through all of them. Through element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And hide each one of them. If I save that and run it, they should all disappear. And they're gone. Right? Because we're counting through all of them. So we're done. Yay. Exclamation point. All right, now the next thing is we want to show them one at a time. Show them one at a time. And when they are all visible, we will hide them all and start over. Okay, we're going to do this in update because we want to show them one at a time when the space bar is pressed. And we've done input and keys and arrows and all sorts of stuff before. It's going to be no different than that. So inside, we do that inside of update because we check this 60 times a second. So show them one at a time when the space bar is pressed. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Do this backwards. When the space bar is pressed, show them one at a time. Looks good to me. Okay, so how do we know if the space bar is pressed? We say if input.get key down, key code.space. So just like we've done in the past, looking for right arrow, left arrow, WASD, all that kind of stuff, the syntax is get key down, and then which key are you looking for? And this if statement says, if all of this stuff is happening, then we can react to it inside of here. That's all that means. So when the space bar is pressed, all right, let's celebrate our victories. That's done. Show them one at a time. Okay, so what does this mean? How are we going to do this? Well, we know this is how we can hide all of them. I'm just going to copy and paste this. Why not? So, and this isn't going to work, right? But let's just check it out because we know we have some code that kind of works. This line here hides them. So if we did the opposite, it should show them. And let's just double check and see what should happen. When we first start up, we're going to hide all of them. We know that works. We didn't change that. We're going to come into update. If the spacebar is pressed, we're going to come and do the same code we copy and pasted. This hid all of them. We changed this to true, so this should show all of them, which isn't what we want, but let's just make sure that it works. Gone, spacebar, they're back. All right, so we know it's working to a certain extent. It's not doing exactly what we want. We want to show them one at a time. This is showing all of them. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to get rid of this for loop and this curly brace because the for loops are going to show all of them. We don't want that. We only want to show one at a time. So remember we did before, we just said we changed this to a 0 and it only showed the first one. So let's see if that still works. Actually, I mean, up here when this was a 0 before, it only hit the first one. So if I put the 0 back here, it should only be showing the first one. Let's see what happens. Blank screen, spacebar, first one, but the rest of them don't show up. But that's okay, we're getting close, right? Show them one at a time. We showed the very first one. If we look at this for loop, we set this variable called x. And x counts from 0 to the length. And x represents each individual image. So instead of just using the number 0, if we had a variable, just like we have x here, but a variable that we increment each time we press the spacebar, instead of incrementing x each time through the for loop, then we would be able to show them one at a time. So what I'm going to do is make a variable at the top. We'll call it int index equals 0. So this is going to be referring to the index that we're going to show next. We set it to 0. So we come down here, instead of the 0, I'm just going to say index. That's all I changed. Index, we set it to 0. So if we do this, we should see no functional changes, even though we added a variable. Let's see what happens. Spacebar, first one shows, nothing happens. So look at our for loop. As we went through all of these, setting all of our images to hidden, we keep incrementing x each time through. So if we do that here after we hit the spacebar, maybe that'll work. So I'm going to say, instead of x, we're using index. Index plus plus. Seems reasonable. Let's see if it works. blank. Oh boy, here we go. Works. All right, not too bad. Now if you notice down here, we're getting an error. Index is out of range. Let's watch it again. Keep an eye down here. The bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good. Now remember, we don't have any more of these things. So as soon as I click space, it's going to try and show the 6th one again. Now we get our error, because we don't have 6 of these. We only have 5. But that's okay, because on the 6th press of the space bar, we don't want to show the 6th one that doesn't exist. We want to erase all of these and hide them again. Let's go back to the code. So this is all good. Well, we need to check. Okay, show them one at a time. We're done. Now, this part. When they're all visible, we will hide them all and start over. Okay. So, let's say something like this. If index equals 5, we've shown 5 of them. Equals equals is comparison. Remember, this is checking to see if index is 5. Whereas this, index equals 0, we're setting index to the value of 0. So this is a comparison. This is an assignment. Okay, so if index is equal to 5, that's this. That's our check. Okay, done. We will hide them all and start over. Okay, hide them all. We know how to do that. This. Copy and paste. We know that works. Okay. Done. And start over. What does that mean? It means the next time through here, we want to make sure our index is set to 0 because we want to show the first one again. So this was hiding them all. This next part here, start over. Index equals 0. Right? Because we need to set our index so next time we come down here and we start showing images, then we're going to show the first one again. Because if we don't do this, we're still going to be trying to show image number 6. So does that look right? Why not? It's going to be wrong, but that's okay. Let's take a look and see what happens. What do you think is going to happen? Think it through. In your head, how is all this code going to work? Let's see what happens. Empty, that still works. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh! What the heck? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it shows 5 right away, and then we clear everything, and then it's gone. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear. So it's clearing it. It's showing the 5th one real quick, and then it's clearing everything all in the same step. So we've got some problems. I mean, it's kind of working, but it's not exactly right because we want to see that 5th one. And we only get to see it for a little bit of time. So here's the thing. This index check is happening 60 times a second. So as soon as we come down here and show the 5th one, like a split second later, we're back over here checking to see, does index equal 5? Yeah, it does. So let's hide everything. That's why it's happening this way. That's why it's coded. So we want to put this code underneath the check for if we're pressing space, because we don't want this to run all the time. Let's do this. I'm just going to move it down. So that way, when we press the space bar, then we're going to check and see where we're at. When it's here, it's going to run all the time, which means we'll barely ever see that 5th one. Now we're going to check it. Only check our index when we hit the space bar. Let's see if that works. Still not going to work. Well, let's see what happens. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we fixed that problem. Now, when we hit space, we want them all to disappear. And then on the next space press after that, we'll show the first one. So we want one press to disappear, second press to show the first one. And that all happens on one press. So we're really close. There's still a problem. So let's check it out. We come down here and we hit space. If index is 5, we've shown all of them. So now we're going to go through them all and hide them. That's good. We reset our index. That's perfect. And then we come down here and set the first one true. All on the same key press. So we only want to show this one if we didn't hide them all. If we hid them all, that's all we want to do. The way we do that is with an else. So if the index is 5, we're going to hide them all. If the index is not 5, we want to show the next one. All right, so we're going to break it up into 2 steps. And to show the next one, that's this code. So I will just move it up. Now we should be good to go. Let's check it out and see what happens. Blank, good, didn't break that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good. Next space should hide everything. Yep. Show the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good. And we're done. So let's look at that again. When we hit space, is our index 5? We've got 5 images. If yes, that means all 5 are visible, so let's hide them all. We do that. We're doing this. Otherwise, if there's not 5 on the screen, we show the next one. And we're going to show our images. Remember, this is an array. It's a collection of images. This index is our a value that kind of increments so we know where we're at in this list. And then we set it up to show the next one. We'll just go through it. Pretty cool. Now, one thing we can add to this, let's add something. We're hiding them all here. Let me do this. And we're also hiding them all right here. This is the same code. And in general, that's a bad thing to have. You don't want to have the same code twice. Much more efficient to kind of group it all together. So we can group this similar code into what's called a function. This is a function. Update's a function. Start's a function. People call them methods. Same thing. So I'm going to make my own. Void hide them all. And I just followed the same syntax here. Open and close parentheses, curly braces, and the code that I want to put in here, I'm just going to copy this stuff, cut it, and put it here. So now anytime I want this code to happen, all I have to do is call hide them all. Like this. So anytime I encounter this, it's just going to jump up here and do all of these things. And we do the same thing here. We don't need this. Hide them all. So now our code starts to get a lot easier to read. When we start, we want to hide them all. Makes a whole lot of sense. If we want to see the details of what this is, we go find that function. Here it is. Hide them all. This is what we do. Inside of update, if index is 5, they're all shown. Hide them all right there. Else, show the next one. So the code becomes a lot easier to read because we just start putting phrases in, functions, that do the same thing. It's not all cryptic code. You just come down here and say, oh, we're supposed to be hiding them all. Let's see, are we? Go check it out. If I save it, oops, Z on accident. See what happens. We start. They're gone. Perfect. Perfect. So what we did, let's go through this whole thing again. We made notes to ourselves the whole way through, which is how we should do it. We created an array, collection, list, whatever you want to call it, of images. We made them public so that inside of Unity, when we look at our script over here, we can just drag all of the contents into it. Inside of start, we want to hide all of them, so we made a function called hide them all. We did a for loop. It started at 0 and went to the length of our images. And for each image in that list, which we separated by square brackets here, we said set active to false, which hit it. And then when we're done, we set our index to 0 because that's going to be the next one that we show. That's the first part. Second part of update, come down here. If we press space, we check our index. Which one do we want to show next? If all 5 of them are visible, then we hide them all. Else, we show the next one. That's it. So think about this. Is this 5 correct? This will work every time we have 5 images. What if we have 6? What if we have 2? What if we have 1,000? What does that 5 represent? So I'm not going to fix that because it works because we have 5. And I want you to think about what is the more correct way to do this so that it works with any number of images. Think about that. All right, that's our code. That's our intro to coding. We've got variables, we've got functions, we've got arrays, we've got for loops, we've got everything. All right, that's it for this one.